back to Healthy and Happy Living with Teriaq, where we explore the science, stories, strategies behind living a longer, healthier, more fulfilled life. I am Dalia Gamil. Hopefully you can hear my smile. Today we're honored to welcome a truly distinguished guest, Dr. Omar Hallak, Head of Cardiovascular Department at King's College Hospital, Dubai, Clinical Professor at Baylor College in Texas, President of the Gulf Chapter of the International Society of Endovascular Specialists, and the Chairman of the 40S International Conference. With decades of global experience in cardiovascular medicine, Dr. Hallak joins us to shed the light on a growing and deeply concerning trend, the rise of cardiovascular disease among the youth. Once considered a condition of middle and old age, heart disease is now affecting younger generations at an alarming rate, driven by poor lifestyle habits, stress, and preventable risk factors. In this episode, Dr. Hallak will help us understand why heart disease is showing up earlier in life, what early warning signs to look out for, how parents, educators, and young people themselves can take positive steps towards heart health. This is more than a medical discussion, it's a wake-up call and a powerful conversation about prevention, awareness, and empowerment. So stay with us. This episode could help change the trajectory of a young life. Let's begin. Welcome, Dr. Hallak.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for being here and to have this discussion.
Thank you for being with us. Dr. Hallak, why are we seeing cardiovascular issues in younger people today?
Apparently, there is some potential explanation to this kind of phenomena, especially at the Gulf area, where I currently practice now. Probably the lifestyle have a significant impact on the heart in general. When you have too much stress, of course, the blood pressure will be high, the sugar can be high. When the food is not very healthy, especially a lot of fried food, processed food, unhealthy food, of course, that will affect the lipid profile. And especially if you add a salty food, which is very common in the restaurant food, and especially fast food, full of salt, full of fat, unfortunately the bad kind of fat. So it will increase the blood pressure, increase the cholesterol, and of course increase the weight, and all complications come with the weight as a risk factor for heart disease. So probably there is some genetic also. I'm talking about this Gulf area, but there is some genetic of heart disease because genetic factor is a strong risk factor for heart disease. So combine genetic risk predisposition to not very healthy lifestyle in young population in the Gulf area comparing to, let's say, for example, USA. I did practice in USA for many years. Rarely I see somebody with a heart attack in their 30s. More likely to see them in their 50s, even beyond. But it's not uncommonly to see patients with heart attack in this part of the world in their 30s. Matter of fact, I have a patient in their late 20s with a heart attack. So it is very alarming. Now, one of the other variables we have to consider also in the Gulf area I'm talking about is the average age in the Gulf area relatively young. So there is some selection bias a little bit because you are dealing most of the people are young. So when you have patients with a heart attack, they're going to be young also. Comparing to population in Florida, most people are old. So people who have heart attack, you're going to see more old patients. I think that's another kind of factor why we see more young heart attack in young patients.
Good to discuss. Are there lifestyle factors like diet, sedentary behavior, screen time, smoking, or vaping that are affecting this?
Very much so. As I mentioned earlier, it's a whole story with a lifestyle. I mean, when you have a wrong lifestyle, you increase all the potential risk factor known to have heart attack. So smoking or vaping or any kind of kind of smoking with whatever type, it is a very well-known risk factors, and unfortunately is very common, especially in the youth nowadays. And unfortunately, the companies start to promote the heated cigarette as a healthier option. I think it's as bad as a smoking. It causes different problem anyway. So so kind of young patient, I see a lot of people using the smoking, and unfortunately I see a lot of people using shisha nowadays, which starts to become like epidemic. And that is definitely a very strong risk factor. One session of shisha probably equal a pack of cigarette.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we see it a lot. Many of those restaurants here have those section for shisha. Lack of exercise, as you said exactly. Sedentary lifestyle, when people not having enough time for exercise or they don't do exercise, of course, that increases the risk for having heart disease and increase the obesity also. And the kind of food I mentioned, the high salt food, which is very common on fast food, which is very spread here in this part of the world. It's very common to see fast food restaurants everywhere. And so very high salt intake, very high carbohydrate content in the food, and very high fat, especially the saturated fat, the worst part of the fat. To make things a little bit more complicated, you don't need to walk to the restaurant to eat. You can just order it at home and food will come to you. So they're not even burning calorie to go and eat. Just, so that makes things even more complicated, make it worse.
Very true.
Yeah.
Dr. Hallak, in your opinion, is there a role for anxiety, burnout, and sleep disorders in young adults that contribute to the early onset of cardiovascular diseases?
I think so. There is a strong relationship between the mental health and cardiac health. And it's a two-way relationship. Anxiety, stress, even, as you said, lack of sleep, all of those increase and different hormone in the body, including adrenaline, sugar, cortisone, and those have bad effect on the cardiovascular system. And there is a well-known disease for, those stress and anxiety and worrying and lack of sleep, it can be divided to two groups. The chronic anxiety and stress syndrome, which is a known risk factor for increased atherosclerosis, because as I said, they promote or increase many of the bad hormone in the body.
Yeah.
And there is something else that's called acute stress syndrome. As you may know, there is something called broken heart syndrome, which was common mostly in women, when a very bad news come out of sudden and the person gets shocked with those news. That probably make a surge of adrenaline in their body and cause a heart attack, or some presentations similar to the heart attack. It's very severe pain, very dysfunctional heart muscle, is very much similar to heart attack actually, and it's called a broken heart syndrome, well-described disease. And it's not uncommon actually, because with all the bad news people hearing nowadays from different parts of the world, I've seen many of those patients who have this broken heart syndrome.
Especially with communication apps and social media, we are more exposed to such news.
Yes.
And what's your opinion about energy drinks, anabolics, and other stimulants?
Well, that's another story, and very much can affect the, cause a lot of symptoms for tachycardia in particular. And I see a lot of those young patients come in with palpitation, and they feel tired because they don't sleep well. So they try to compensate by drinking more caffeine, which is energy drink, and that make it even worse because they think they try to fix lack of sleep with taking more caffeine, but that make it even worse for their body and become even more drained, more weak, and they drink more energy and get more weaker. And from cardiac point of view, of course, you get too much caffeine on board will make the heart acting up and get palpitation and tachycardia, irregular heart rhythm. Of course, can raise the blood pressure and all related issues with that kind of abnormalities. And unfortunately, I see a lot of this kind of problem in the young population in particular.
Unfortunate. So, Dr. Hallak, what are the early signs and symptoms youth should not ignore?
Well, anytime people have symptoms for youth or adult, I mean, anything doesn't feel right is if they have some shortness of breath, if they have some chest pain, if they are having some dizziness, lightheadedness, fainting, some bad arrhythmia, feeling a lot of arrhythmia in the heart, chest pain, especially if related to the left arm, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, those kind of symptoms, if it happen, I mean, it should be definitely the person should have a medical consult to be sure this is not a serious disease.
Yeah.
Those kind of symptoms I mentioned. It can be something simple and mild, but it can be a serious problem. Even a heart attack can cause this kind of those symptoms. So if somebody have symptom, need to check it out. Don't ignore any symptom. Take it very seriously. I tell the patient always, like the car, you're driving a car and then a red light shows in your dashboard.
Yeah,
You have to see what it is.
exactly.
It can be something simple, refill the gas, or it can be something serious. You have to stop and take emergency fix for the car. So, but you need to check it. So, any of those warning sign or red light in our body, those sensors kind of stimulate. I mean, bringing our attention. Don't ignore those sensors. Don't ignore those warning sign. Check it out and see what it is, and hopefully not serious.
Hopefully. And the sooner the better.
Definitely.
Are there any silent warning signs in younger population?
Of course, there's always potential, always from cardiac disease. There's always a percentage of patients have no symptoms and they have a problem, and especially the early stages of blockages, because the artery, believe it or not, can block 50, 60, even 70%, and patients have no symptoms.
Oh,
And then when it starts to go above 70%, they may start to have symptoms. And unfortunately, sometimes the first symptom can be heart attack, or it can be sudden cardiac death. So not having symptom does not have problem. So if somebody have risk factor for heart disease, definitely need to be evaluated to be sure they don't have heart disease. And just to kind of elaborate here on the heart disease in young population, heart disease is a very wide kind of diseases. And to understand it more, we have to know what is the heart consists of. And it is consists of heart muscle, basically the pumping part of the heart. It also contains heart valve, which direct the flow in the heart, the blood flow in the heart, and pump it outside the heart. It's involved the artery feeding the heart called coronary artery. And the last one involved electrical system to regulate the heartbeat. So any of those components can have problem, and a person can have even more than one problem in one of those components, and all of those can affect young population. And for example, inflammation of the heart muscle, myocarditis,
yeah.
can affect even more young people than older patients, because they have more exposure to those viruses. And during Corona, as you may remember, we have quite a few patients who have myocarditis,
Yeah.
which make the heart weak. And now there's different kind of virus. For example, Coxsackie virus actually is similar to the influenza, but that particular virus like the heart more than the lungs, for example, and it can cause myocarditis. So myocarditis can affect even the young patient more than the elderly patient. So that's affecting the muscle. And there is some other congenital heart disease we have to be aware of for called cardiomyopathy. Like for example, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy can also can also start to be seen in the young population. And as you may see sometime in the national TV with national sport, somebody collapse, young person collapse.
Yeah.
They may have some kind of congenital abnormality, either hypertrophic cardiomyopathy or anomaly of the artery of the heart or some arrhythmia or something. So the valvular heart disease is due to be very common because it used to be related to infection, special infection called rheumatic fever, and that fever used to affect the heart valve a lot, especially in young patients. But now, thank God, there is very much control of the rheumatic fever. Very rare nowadays to see that one, but we used to see a lot of valvular heart disease in relatively young or middle-aged patients, especially women in particular. Now, for the coronary artery disease, what we have been talking in the beginning of this talk, the artery which feeding the heart, blocking at that artery will stop the blood supply to the heart and can cause a heart attack.
Oh.
So that one is usually is a long process. It may start in the 20s and it will show up in the 30s, 40s, 50s, depending about how bad is the risk factors. And as I said, there is apparently a lot of risk factor in this part of the world, and that's the reason we see those diseases start to show the symptom in the 30s.
Yeah.
Latest, I mean, a lot of data become more available recently that the actual blockaging process start in the teens, and
That's young.
yes, very young, and that's the reason we have to start teaching our kids to be healthy. I mean, a child, that doesn't mean that he not to be affected by too much fast food or what you call it, unhealthy food or junk food. So yes, once in a while it's okay, but a lot of it can start to precipitate the blockages in the young children. I mean, young adult. As a matter of fact, there was a study called Bagalusa trial, close to, you live in Houston, and there was a place close to New Orleans, southern Louisiana, a small city called Bagalusa.
Okay.
And a doctor there, he thought about a very kind of interesting idea. Let's just do autopsy on every patient die in that small village, from car accident, from gunshot, or from any reason for this. Let's just get the autopsy and to see what happened. And he was surprised, and was a very kind of breaking news, that he found blockages in patients who are 18 years old, about 50% narrowing in some of the arteries at 18 years old boy. So he have quite a few of those patients who are young patients, die from different reasons.
Yeah.
Car accident, for example, when they did autopsy, they found already the process of blockages started. And actually, of course, we're not surprised that blockage start in the age of 18. By age 30, 35, the blockage will be bad enough to cause a heart attack.
That's really alarming.
Very much so.
And here comes the role of checkup and the impact of family history. So, Dr. Hallak, how much does family history impact youth cardiovascular health?
It is actually one of the strongest factors. And as you may know, you can see this family have heart disease, a lot of heart disease. This family have a lot of diabetes. The other family have a lot of cancer, and so on. This other particular family, they live to their 100. So it is genetic. And genetic factor is a strong factor for heart disease. If somebody have a strong family history of heart disease, that means if parents or close relative, the male, they have heart disease below age of 50 or below, or women 60 or below, this is a strong risk factor for heart disease, that particular family, they need to be starting testing themselves earlier than other average patient, and that's including testing their risk factors, their cholesterol, their sugars, their blood pressure, their lipid profile, and also being evaluated more often by their doctor because it is a strong risk factor.
And do you think can healthy lifestyle completely offset genetic predisposition?
It balances out some, of course, cannot remove the whole risk. It is, as you can tell my patient actually, there's a black point accumulated. Let's see, if you have a strong risk factor, you have 5 black points from genetic. If you add to it smoking, you add more black point, add blood pressure, add cholesterol, add sugar. The more you add black point, the more likely a person have a heart attack. So if you have genetic, not much you can do about the things you're born with at this time. So you need to do as much as possible to compensate that risk factor you have to start with. You cannot really completely remove the risk, but you can definitely significantly decrease that risk by doing a healthier lifestyle than average person and monitoring all the other parameters to be sure all the other parameters at the target.
Thank you. And this is a question for families who have family history. When do young patients require stents, angioplasty, or advanced interventions?
Well, before you go to that far, I think they need to first, I would recommend at age 18, everybody to check their cholesterol, measure their blood pressure, and check their hemoglobin A1C, which is something to do with the accumulated sugar, if those have risk factors. Actually, probably the pediatrician will recommend to start earlier. But let's see, you're going to start at 18. Before they enter the college, they should have some evaluation, checking their blood pressure, cholesterol, and sugar. And if everything is fine, they may repeat the lab work after, let's say, 5 years or so. Now, if there is any symptoms or any significant abnormalities in those patients who become, let's say, 30 or 40s, and they have risk factor, and they have family history, and they have some other risk factor, then definitely need to be evaluated by physician to see do they have any sign of early blockages or not. And there is a lot of tests can be done to verify if they have problem or not. And if they do, then we'll go a step further. Should you do some intervention or just medical therapy and risk factor modification? So it's kind of different steps. But I mean, the most important step of all of the above is prevention. Start early. If something wrong, discover it early, fix it early, and that will pay you off down the line.
So this is the advice.
Absolutely.
Dr. Hallak, what are top things young people can do to protect their heart health?
Very much a lot of exercise. Young people, and everybody actually, not only young, should not be sitting on the phone wasting hours on the phone. Should be running around, doing sport, doing swimming, cycling, jumping, running, all kind of physical sport, because that's what they need to do, especially for the young population, because healthy body will give them healthy brain. And this cardiovascular system have to be really fit, and they have to be built a healthy system, so it will carry them for years to come later on. So exercise is very, very important part of their lifestyle. It should be really probably an hour, 2 hours, whatever time they have to do sport. And the sport can be two kind. One is just as simple as just walking 10,000 steps or so. And the other one, which is very important for young patients, is cardiovascular exercise.
Yeah.
Football, basketball, swimming, as I said, cycling, running, all kind of cardiovascular exercise, which is good. Cardiovascular exercise first increase endorphin, so they feel better. And number two, increase nitric oxide, which regenerate the arteries and make it and keep it young. And patient, they have a study before on the people who are sporty people versus non-sporty patient, and they found out physiological age of sporty people about 10 years younger If
Yeah.
somebody 50 doing exercise regularly and somebody 50 sitting on the computer and the telephone all day long, they are 10 years younger biologically, the one who doing the exercise. So number one, exercise is very important. And number two, healthy diet. They try to do more of vegetables, more of fruit, more of the lean meat, boiled egg, beans, chicken, fish, all kind of good, healthy, nutritious food. I understand they like to have some fast food once in a while. It's okay once in a while, but once in a while, I would say probably once a month or so, of the unhealthy diet. And but the trend have to be healthy diet. And for sure, should not touch smoking and should not kind of get close to smokers because they will get contaminated and start to smoke themselves. And also they get passive smoking, even if they don't smoke themselves. So I think we need to start be sure that smoking is kind of completely removed from the society. And I know many government in the world start to make rules of not smoking in the public area, and they need to restrict even more actually, semi-public area, or because smoking is really not only have a medical health, have financial implication too. I mean, it's expensive
Yeah.
to smoke, and that instead of spending that money, I don't know how much they spend per month on smoking. If they spend it on signing up for gym or go for even kind of mini vacation or something, it will have much more pleasant impact on them and much healthier outcome.
So we have to create a new trend, living like our grannies.
Yeah, exactly. They used to eat healthy and do a lot of physical activities and take it in easy,
Yeah.
not stressing too much. And they used to sleep right, sleep well, sleep early. So sleeping early is very important because you synchronize your biological clock with actual clock, so the body will be feeling right. If especially young people kind of sleep late, that mess up their biological clock, and they have daily jet lag, because jet lag is just mismatch between between the biological clock and the actual clock. There is desynchrony, and people who sleep late every day, they have this jet lag every day, so they feel always tired, fatigued, drained, for they don't have the reason. Well, the reason because the biological clock is not working well.
Very true. And do you see a role of schools, universities, and workplaces in prevention of cardiovascular diseases among youth?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a program start from birth, with the parent to start doing the healthy living for their children, and when the children go to school, they should have a regular educational program about living healthy. When go to university, it will be the same. When go to society, should be a lot of program in the public media about continuous uh, health awareness, health education. It is a continuous process from day one of life to until the last day. So it's continuous educational program, practice program, and that and hopefully the whole society be a healthier one.
Hopefully. Dr. Halak, in the era of technology and social media, how are fitness trackers, applications, and wearable technology can help or harm the youth hearts?
Well, this is a great question. So the technology available, use it in the right way, use it for the benefit, and those tracker and monitor and so on, it give you or to give the person a good feedback, and they know what they are doing. And if they are not doing enough, let's say they have to do 10,000 steps a day, and the tracker will tell them, well, you got only 8, just go and finish 2. So it gives them some feedback, and that will give them some rewarding, positive rewarding of doing more and more. And when they see this burn some calories or did whatever it is, how many kilometers they walk and so on, I think those are really good. I strongly recommend it to use those kind of devices. And the young patient, they like, or the young people like that kind of those kind of high-tech toy to play with and deal with. And that so this using technology is good. And as you mentioned, also monitoring those technology now is very readily available for monitoring the heart condition. Some of it measures the blood pressure regularly, some of it measures the heart rate and transmitted to even the doctor if they want to. And so, I mean, we need to use technology for the benefit of health, yes, for sure.
That's true, and I think everyone now has an iPhone and Android, and many of
And
the
it have
apps
a lot
are
of
there.
application, yes.
Yeah, can help all patients and healthy people to maintain healthy lifestyle
Very much
instead of
so.
just scrolling on other social media channels.
Very much so.
Dr. Hala, what's your advice for parents and educators on instilling lifelong habits around food activity and stress management, especially when we're talking about the Middle Eastern style of food and activity?
Yeah, I think it's first we have to. There is something called Middle Eastern diet, which is a healthy diet, and we just try to stick with that. I'll go back again to it because now, unfortunately, in the Middle East, try to import the unhealthy food from Europe or US with a lot of those fast food, which is very unhealthy. Most of those are fried food and unhealthy food. So number one, to try to go back again to the healthy Middle Eastern diet, which is usually very healthy, full of a lot of fresh vegetables and fruit.
True.
And beans and lean meat and eggs and so on. Those are very healthy stuff. Yeah, and so it have this kind of more regular family gathering with those meals that will make it even more pleasant gathering and we have more healthy meal together. But if they are not sitting together eating, everybody will order their own meal from somewhere and end up with a lot of unhealthy food. So back to that tradition of sitting all the family together, eating together at home. So it's not only medical benefit, is social benefit, family tie, and so on.
Very true. Dr. Halak, what's your personal message to the youth about heart health?
Well, you have only one heart. If that heart stop working, that's the end of it. So you have to do everything possible to keep that heart healthy and happy, and that by doing all I mentioned earlier about healthier lifestyle. For sure, no smoking, for sure, daily exercise. Try to do a healthy diet as much as possible. Sometimes it's hard, but you have to do your best of picking up the healthy diet. Avoid fast food if all possible. Anytime you have a chance to do exercise, try to do it. Be sure to sleep early and wake up early. Be sure not to stress too much. There's too much stress nowadays in the world. Um, try to find a way to manage the stress or deal with it in the right way, not to inflict on your own health. So those kind of things can decrease the chance of having trouble. I recommend them to be evaluated by their healthy professional to see if they have any hidden risk factor. Most of the risk factors are silent. For example, high cholesterol, you have no symptoms. You have to test it. High sugar, you don't have symptoms usually. High blood pressure, same. So all those risk factors are kind of silent, so they need to be tested. And if they are clear, well, that's happy. That makes them even happy. And then just check it again in 5 years or so. If something wrong, discover it early and do something about it early.
And what gives you hope in the fight against cardiovascular diseases when you see those patients every day?
Well, I think I'm very happy that people are more aware of it. There is more aware program about the heart healthy living. And I see a trend nowadays to people kind of try to be more careful of what they are doing in their life. We need to have, there's still a lot of work to do on about smoking, but I see people are more careful with their diet, kind of especially the educated one, and many of them, they read the ingredient and they check it out to be sure it's healthy for them. And so probably try to eliminate smoking from the whole society. That is probably, there's room for improvement there. And probably we need to do more exercise. And there is many countries now, for example, in UAE, there is out of, and Dubai, there is out of area has been placed for free for exercise, for like a bicycle track. I think there's about 50 kilometers of bicycle track for people to use every day. And there is a lot of area next to the beach or other parks. A lot of area is for doing exercise. So it's now become more available. And I see more and more the young people coming to those places and doing sport. And this is a good sign.
Good to have hope every day.
Absolutely.
Dr. Hallak, what is one myth or misconception about heart disease in youth you want to bust?
Well, that heart disease doesn't affect the youth. It's only the disease of elderly patients. And this is not true. I've seen patients in their 20s, as I said, and 30s, they have a heart attack, and some of them, they die.
Oh.
Yeah, and unfortunately. So it's heart disease can affect any age. So the myth that you can do anything wrong and nothing happened to you, this is the myth. So if you smoke, if you eat bad diet, if you don't do good healthy diet and exercise, you can end up with trouble. So youth, being young, does not prevent you from having a problem.
Very true. So we need to start as early as possible.
Very much so.
That brings us to the end of this powerful episode of Healthy and Happy Living with Tiriaq. A heartfelt thank you to Dr. Omar Hallak for sharing his expertise, insights, and deep passion for preventive heart health, especially when it comes to protecting the next generation. If there is one message to take away from today, it's heart health starts early. The choices we make in our teens and 20s can shape our cardiovascular future. Awareness, education, and small lifestyle changes today can prevent serious issues tomorrow. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it, a parent, a teacher, a young adult, or anyone who can help be part of the solution. Until next time, stay informed, proactive, and as always, live healthy and happy. And take joy wherever you go.